Hello, I'm Carl French. Many people in business, people in the professions and skilled people say that the pressure on their time is a major problem for them. They say that they just don't have enough time to do everything they need to do, and sometimes they feel they're not using their time as appropriately as they could, not getting the rewards for their expertise. That's the problem, but what's the answer? Well, the famous Dutch computer scientist Edsger Dijksra gave the advice, only do what only you can do. And on reflection, that may seem great advice, but the question is, how on earth do you actually do it? In these few slides, I'll talk you through a very simple method that really does give results very quickly, I'd say within a week or two. What I'm going through is a very simplified version of a much more extensive technique, because I don't want to make this video too long, but I think you'll see that even using this very simplified version I'm about to show you, that you really can find ways to use your time more productively, save yourself time, and free that time up to maybe do things which could create even greater rewards. But you can be the judge of that. So let's get started and see how this works. Right, here's the chart you need to draw up for yourself, and you may even want to pause this video just to jot it down, although we have actually got copies available if you want them. You'll see there's just a few columns, starting with activities. I'll explain each column as we get to it, and we're going to work through one column at a time, starting with activities. And by activities I don't mean tasks, I mean those things that you repeatedly work on in your week. An activity could be something like doing administration, for instance. So let's get started. Okay, well here I've filled in an example for you. It's very simplified. As you can see, the person filling this in has just put down 4 activities. You might find yourself wanting to fill in maybe up to 10. If you've got more than that, you're probably thinking about tasks rather than activities. You can see what these are: sales, service, projects and admin. The next thing to do, it may seem back to front but it works, is write down under the total at the second column the total number of hours you work every week. Do be honest and include all hours that you can possibly spend on your business related activities. Now all you have to do with column 2 is to assign those hours, 50 in this case, to the activities that you're performing. It helps to work with a pencil. You might go to and fro a bit, but come up with your best guess. Now we go to the next column. This is pretty straightforward. There is actually a more complicated version of this, but as I said, this is the easy version. What you do is you look at each activity in the left hand column and decide whether or not you have to be the person doing it, or whether you could possibly delegate all or part of it to somebody else. In this simplified example, we've just put down simple yeses and nos. So work through and see what you can give to somebody else to do, and I'd suggest you put a no in if some significant amount of it can be done by somebody else. Now for the next column we need to do a bit of preparatory work, and that is decide on hourly rates. In this simple example given here, and incidentally it doesn't matter whether it's pounds, dollars, euros or whatever it is you're working in, that's the units to work in. In this example you can see for you we put down 100 units per hour, but you obviously decide what your hourly rate is. That's the cost of employing you to you, your business or whatever. The other two on here, as you can see, are called ANO1 and ANO2. You might like to give names to those, but another person, in this case one is at 40 per hour and the ANO2 is costing 20 per hour. Obviously ANO2 is a less expensive person to deploy than ANO1. Right, now we're back to the chart again. We can now fill in the column called cost of you. All you're doing is multiplying your hourly rate by the number that's in the second column. So because we put down 100 for the example, 12 becomes 1200, and so on, all the way down the column. Right, we've just totted up the cost of you to a total at the bottom of 5,000, and at this point, though I touched on it earlier, you might look hard, say, at one of these items if it can be split, so you do some of it but not all of it. For instance, if I thought admin could be split, I might split that into admin 1 and admin 2, where maybe admin 1 had a yes against it and admin 2 had a no. That's the way you can progress. But I won't complicate this example with those particular details. So let's move on to the next column. In this next column, I've decided, for the example, that service can be done by ANO1, and I've used their hourly rate, which is 40, multiplied by that 13 to get the 520, and I've decided that ANO2 can do the admin, so I've multiplied their hourly rate by 14 to get 280. So now it's a simple matter of adding up the cost of those two activities in the cost of ANO column. There's quite a bit you can do already. Right, now we can tot up the cost of ANO column to see how much it will cost to employ these alternative people. There is a saving by using them instead of you, of course, but at this stage, before even going to the next column, we can look at a number of figures, including what the total cost would be if we mixed you doing it and them doing it, and that would obviously reduce the 5,000. But let's move to the other column and see what's coming up there. There you have it, just taking, for instance, 520 from 1300 gives 780. We've got significant savings on those two activities. And you'll see there's even more saving on the admin because the person doing the job is at a lower rate. But that's not it, as you can see. You've saved 27 hours. The question is, what do you do with them? Do you redeploy yourself for some of those hours doing something more productive, maybe something that brings in revenue, or do you actually take some time pressure off yourself? It's your choice, of course, but you have got that choice. The total at the bottom, you can see, is a saving of 1,900. Quite a lot. Now, I'm sure you can draw conclusions from for yourself from looking at what's there. But here are a few key points to draw to your attention, so to speak. You clearly can save yourself time, which you reuse as you want, the point I've already made on the last slide. The activities you hand over will cost less because the person doing them is at a lower rate. And the lower the rate of the alternative, the bigger the saving. So that tells you where you really ought to start. What very low level, simple job are you spending a lot of time on, which you could hand over to somebody else? Admin, or part of your admin, is often a good starting point. If you reuse the save time on more rewarding work, you could possibly increase your income. For instance, somebody doing sales might bring in more business, or somebody selling their time as a professional, specialist or whatever, might spend more hours on paid work. You know how your business works, you know what will have a positive effect on the income and what has a drain. Now, the last point to make here is this is, of course, a very simplified version, and you can do much better with the full technique. And that is available, but it's not covered by this video. It's a much longer exercise. So, what now? Well, that's it really. There's the technique. If you look through it a couple of times, I'm sure you'll be able to take it away and do it entirely by yourself. And if you do apply it, even in a small scale, you can see the results within days. I've had clients come back and tell me they've saved themselves hundreds of pounds before the end of the month, and in some cases they said what they'd actually done is brought in a huge amount more revenue. How you use it is entirely down to you, of course. That's the simplified version. Give it a whirl. You really have nothing to lose. The only way you won't get results from it is by not applying it. So do give it a try. And you will find out then that you do know how to only do what only you can do. Thank you for watching. I'm Carl French.